From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South. I am Keishan Haynes. Welcome. We begin in Guatemala, where the Guatemalan government has asked the governments of Venezuela and Sweden to withdraw their ambassadors from the country. It accused them of improperly interfering in domestic politics. Guatemala's foreign ministry said it was not declaring the diplomats personas non grata. However, it said it would wait for the governments of Sweden and Venezuela to present new ambassadors. Sweden has called the incident very unfortunate, saying they are going to seek further explanation from the Guatemalan government and then decide on a course of action. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has announced that Isla Margarita, one of the country's most important tourist locations, is to be made into a special economic area for the use of the petro cryptocurrency. Maduro was speaking at a campaign rally in Nueva Esparta on Thursday, where he asked supporters to unite as times of prosperity, change, and hope lie ahead. Maduro is pushing the petro as a major tool to combat external economic sanctions. Maduro previously announced the petro will be used to open a youth bank with 20 million units, which he says are collectively worth $1.2 billion.
I just signed a decree to declare the whole island of Margarita a special economic zone for the use of the petro, to be used for transactions. Margarita, the first petro zone in the country.
And at the center of the coming election in Venezuela is the challenge of overcoming the country's economic difficulties, especially the supply of basic goods at affordable prices. Ian Bruce has been to a community factory in Caracas that is trying to do just that.
We're here at the Mastranta Chemical Industries in Antímono. That's a popular neighborhood of Caracas. This is a community enterprise set up by 8 engineers and the local community to try and combat the shortage of many materials, in this case soap, which is one of the most difficult things for people to buy in the present conditions in the so-called economic war. Now, let's have a look at how the process works. This is soap entirely made with local ingredients. There's palm oil in these containers over here, which is then mixed with the other ingredients over here into the paste. The paste is then put into these containers here and left to dry. After that, it's brought over to here. It's emptied out of the containers, and the workers here begin to cut it up into small pieces. Now, the people working here, as I say, are mostly from the local community, from some of the local community organizations. The company started, the project started as a cooperative 2 years ago, but they've been producing for 6 months now. And let's have a look at the final product. So the small pieces of soap that the workers were cutting up are put into this machine here. Comes out as this kind of spaghetti-looking stuff. It's left to dry for a little while, and then it's taken to this machine over here. Let's see how that works. So it comes up here. They put it into the funnel there, and it comes out as this continuous stream of soap here, which is then chopped up into the bars of soap. The company is currently producing 220,000 bars of soap a month. About 10% of that goes to the local food supply and production committees, which distribute them in the neighborhoods to people's homes. And then it comes over here and it goes into the wrapping machine here. And finally, it's put in the plastic covers into the boxes. They say the capacity here could be as much as 1 million bars of soap a month, but to do that, they need to speed up the chemical process. At the moment, the process of mixing the chemicals is a little bit slow to reach that volume of production. But it's still a significant contribution to the grave shortage and the very high prices which people suffer to buy basic goods like soap and other items of domestic hygiene.
Ian Bruce reporting from Caracas there. Now, international observers are due to arrive in Venezuela next week to accompany and monitor the electoral process. We spoke with Raul Burbano of Common Frontiers on how Venezuela's voting system compares to that of other countries.
Well, I've had the opportunity to participate in elections observations in Venezuela, Bolivia, and most recently in Honduras in 2013. And I think I could say unequivocally that the electoral system in Venezuela is one of the strongest in terms of the environmental process, pre and post the elections. So it's one that's laden with transparency, participation of all the different parties. In other countries, for example, in Honduras, it was more an environment of intimidation and fear. Also, when I look at the electoral technology and system, the one in Venezuela is extremely advanced and secure. For example, there's biometric authentication of the voter, which also activates the machine. The system is auditable through all the stages, which is something that I did not see in any of the other countries that I've participated in.
And staying in Venezuela, the second day of the international meeting to discuss reparations for slavery came to a close on Thursday. Venezuela has been hosting the meetings after President Maduro's proposal a few months ago for an international plan to repair and protect the rights of the African community that were damaged through slavery and colonization. Now, Ian Bruce spoke to the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, who said the case could be taken all the way to the Criminal Court of Justice.
Well, the importance of it is the first time we are seeing a structured, organized joinder between Latin America, the Caribbean, and Africa on the issue of reparations for native genocide and African slavery. Before, it has been focused largely in the Caribbean community and among one or two African states, particularly in West Africa. Now, Venezuela is involved, Latin America is involved, playing an important role to push this forward, because the reparation movement is about repairing the legacy of underdevelopment as a consequence of native genocide and African slavery. And once it is put in those terms, persons can see with clarity what it is about, that the real conditions today have a direct connection with what happened centuries ago, because it's not easy to erase the effect of native genocide and African slavery in such a short period of time. And we need help to repair this legacy of underdevelopment. And the countries which profited, the European countries, they should be the ones to be providing reparations, repairing, in collaboration with us in a partnership.
So how will this initiative connect with the existing CARICOM?
Well, this one will help to, in a sense, give more life and broaden the discussion, because the discussion is not just legal, it is political and it's diplomatic.
So what are the next steps?
Well, we in CARICOM, we have a commission, and we are proceeding with our work in diplomatic terms, in educational terms, and hopefully we will get shortly today ICJ, the International Court of Justice. If as a consequence of our mature conversation with them, we don't come to an understanding or a resolution.
So you're planning to take it to the ICJ?
Yes. Yes. We intended to take it to the ICJ within the framework of international law.
When could that happen? Who will take it?
Well, the individual states in CARICOM will have to take it. But there's some way before we do that, because we want to pursue more dialogue, pursue more diplomatic work. But we're preparing the case all the time.
Moving on now, Argentinian Minister of Economy Nicolas de Hovne met with the International Monetary Fund Chief Christine Lagarde to request that financing package. De Hovne said in a statement later that Argentina and the IMF had agreed to not publicly disclose the amount of financing or the conditions until an agreement between the two had been reached. They said their shared goal is to reach a rapid conclusion of these discussions. President Macri was negotiating with the IMF for a $30 billion credit line. And there are even more protests happening in Argentina over austerity measures. Our correspondent, Edgardo Esteban, has more details.
University professors have been giving a press conference here in Plaza Constitución. They asked for a salary increase of more than 25% due to the increase in the cost of living, which is greater than 24%. The constant failings of Macri's government have prompted teachers and professors from all over the country to plan a demonstration in the nation's capital on May 17. In particular, the demonstration will target the neoliberal policies of Macri's government. In this press conference, they also talk about the concern that people have because of the agreement that Argentina is building with IMF, because they anticipate that the workers will be the most affected by the deal.
Edgardo Esteban there. With high expectations, peace dialogue between the National Liberation Army and the government of the Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos resumed on Thursday in Havana.
Cuba is once again the headquarters of a peace dialogue, this time hosting talks between the National Liberation Army and the Colombian government.
We do not hesitate to once again accept the responsibility of hosting the peace process in Colombia, in this case creating space to hold the fifth cycle of dialogues. We do it in accordance with the principles of Latin America and the Caribbean as a peace zone.
The head of the Colombia's peace delegation, Gustavo Bell, called for decisive steps towards agreeing on a stable and robust ceasefire that will make it possible to arrive to election day in peace.
This is a process with a rhythm that anticipates reasonable optimism, that we can have concrete and favorable results in the medium term that will move us forward. There will be a time when Colombian society will be responsible with continuing these dialogues, independent of the government that is elected during the next elections.
The head of the ELN negotiating team, Pablo Bertrand, reiterated that the only viable path to resolve the Colombian conflict is dialogue.
This process has two main objectives. First, to get violence out of politics. We are two parties and each must put forth effort to make sure this happens. And second, we must work towards transformation in Colombia, because nothing will be done unless there is a transformation that changes the conditions that generate the raising of arms.
Beltran assured that no level of adversity can make the ELN abandon the dialogue. However, he said that he was concerned that even after the demobilization of the FARC-EP, there is a political genocide against the opposition. Nailing down a bilateral ceasefire and defining mechanism for the participation of society in the construction of peace will be the topics of discussion during this fifth cycle of conversation that resume in Havana.
Let's take a short break now. Join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
Determine who's allowed to be here and who's not allowed to be here, regardless of whether you feel that you're allowed to be here or not, okay?
Continue. Correct. Document. I'm not taking your picture. This is Facebook Live. Here's what we're gonna do. That's fine. I need to go back to... I have every right to call the police. Continue. Get my good side. I need to go back to this whole board and finish writing my paper.
What's, you got your ID on you?
Yeah, I do.
All right, can we see that?
Why?
We got a police call for you.
Okay, I just opened the door to my apartment.
That's fine. I can see that.
Okay. In the building. I think when someone I'm not going to justify my existence here.
Welcome back. Colombian local media has reported former FARC leader Jesus Santrich has ended his hunger strike after 32 days. Santrich went on a strike after he was arrested at the request of the United States on alleged drug trafficking charges. Human rights activists and politicians have all asked him to go off the hunger strike so that he can live to create peace. Mexican Interior Minister Alfonso Navarrete announced the arrest of a third suspect in the murder of 3 film students who were kidnapped outside the city of Guadalajara on March 19th. Navarrete said the suspect was arrested during a federal police raid in central Mexico after a manhunt crossing 4 states. That involved several national security agencies. The Interior Minister added that the authorities are still searching for a 4th and final suspect in the case. Investigators blame the Jalisco New Generation drug cartel for the murders. Still in Mexico, hundreds of mothers have marched for their disappeared children and demanded the government return them home on Mother's Day. Dozens of families gathered in Mexico City under intense heat while holding signs that read, "Hold on, Mom is looking for you," and "No more disappearances." Mothers said they will continue to look for their loved ones and will do whatever and go wherever to find them. They also protested the rise of the number of people disappeared, which reached more than 30,000 at the end of 2016. Many of them are feared dead.
Today I would like to ask the government to give us a present for Mother's Day. The present I'm asking for is that it help us find our children.
I feel powerless knowing that there are so many missing persons. It is not fair that this government doesn't do anything for them.
Mothers in the town of Chilapa in the state of Guerrero also joined together in a mass to remember their lost children and husbands. At least 150 people have disappeared in the small town. Chilapa has become one of the most violent municipalities in Mexico, with drug gangs battling over different areas and territories. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas continues his tour of Chile. Chile is home to the largest number of Palestinians outside the Arab world.
The president took a break from his agenda to visit the Palestinian soccer team based in Chile, which, according to Mahmoud Abbas, is like the second national team of Palestine.
We are here representing our people and identity. Having the president of Palestine in our stadium, in our home, is the greatest honor for us.
Chile is home to the largest Palestinian community outside the Arab world. The migration started during the late 1800s and increased after the Nakba in 1947.
The international community and Chilean government must compromise to realize the Palestinian dream of being a free nation, just like any other country in the world. During these days, we remember 70 years of the Nakba, or Palestinian catastrophe, which started with 800,000 Palestinians expelled from their homes.
Farid Saran and her family are one of many Palestinians who immigrated to Chile.
This forms a strong bond between the Palestinian youth and their roots in a political way.
These young people are also fighting for the Palestinian cause by participating in the federation, the soccer team, and even producing TV shows. Even though they were born in Chile, they choose to move to Palestine to fight for the cause they inherited. But they're grateful too.
My cousins told me that our grandmother didn't like it here. She always wanted to go back to Betala. But for us, everything has been really good.
That's the reason for Mahmoud Abbas' visit to Chile, to strengthen bonds between the two nations.
The Palestinian people have the right to be autonomous, and Chile will always support that cause.
I deeply appreciate the support we've received for our people.
This is an example of the support that Palestine continues to call from the international community.
In Barbados, the opposition Barbados Labour Party has launched their manifesto, laying out the plans for the country if they win the election. The Mia Motley-led DLP is promising free education for Barbadian students at the University of the West Indies, a major tax reform to go along with wage increases for public servants, and the restructuring of Barbados' foreign debt.
All tonight, but I will address a few for you. Because the first thing we have to do within the first 4 weeks of office is to deal with the fact that our foreign reserves are falling and that we have a foreign debt payment of $120 million to pay in June. That is why I shall forever hold Frondel Stewart responsible for carrying us to the edge in calling this election. It is wickedness on stilts.
And the ruling Democratic Labour Party in Barbados continues to remind citizens of its progress during its term. At a rally on Thursday, candidates reminded citizens they created the first ever youth policy and implemented the Cultural Industries Act, which was created for entertainers and artists to make money. The DLP says they have been able to do a number of great things with scarce resources. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange has been banned from receiving visitors and phone calls at the Ecuadorian embassy in London, where he has been living since 2012. Ecuadorian Foreign Minister Maria Fernanda Espinosa confirmed Assange's communications were being restricted even further. Back in March, his internet access was blocked after he tweeted condemnation of Britain's response to the poisoning of former Russian intelligence officer Sergei Skripal and his daughter. The Ecuadorian government said Assange breached a written commitment to not issue messages that might interfere with other states. Taking another short break now, join us again after this look at what our multimedia colleagues are reporting.
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
Welcome back. After U.S. President Donald Trump announced the date of his historic summit with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, officials from both sides have been instructed to prepare the venue. On Thursday, Trump announced the meeting will take place in Singapore on June 12th. It will be the first ever face-to-face meeting between a sitting U.S. president and a North Korean leader. The Southeast Asian city-state was chosen because of its neutrality and proximity to Pyongyang. Students in Madrid, Spain continue protests against the verdict of a court decision that cleared 5 men of a teenager's gang rape. Demonstrators marched in outrage over the Wolfpack gang rape case, named after the WhatsApp group chat where 5 men bragged about the assault. The men were accused of raping a woman at a bull running festival in 2016, but were convicted on a lesser crime of sexual abuse. 92-year-old Mahathir Mohamad has become the world's oldest leader. Here's that and other stories making headlines from around the world.
Malaysia has elected the world's oldest Prime Minister. 92-year-old Mahathir Mohamad was sworn in as the new Prime Minister after the Pakatan Harapan coalition won a general election. This marks a historic defeat for the ruling Barisan Nasional coalition, which held power for 6 decades since the country's independence in 1957. Just after taking office, Mohamad said he will boost Malaysia's economy.
We intend to build up Malaysia's economy with the help of investors from inside and outside the country. We would like to see a very active stock market and also increase in capitalization. I think I have some experience. I think the government may need my experience. So I'll stay for as long as my experience is needed, but not too long.
Emergency search teams have been looking for survivors after a dam burst in the Kenyan town of Solai left around 50 dead on Wednesday night. Days of heavy rain destroyed the dam, sweeping at least 500 homes while people were asleep. Many East African countries like Kenya have endured heavy rains over the past couple of months. Floods caused by rain have already claimed more than 300 lives and displaced 200,000 people in East Africa since March. The Kilauea volcano on Hawaii's Big Island in the United States could explode anytime, according to geologists. If it does, it will be once-in-a-century eruption. The volcano has been blowing off toxic steam and releasing lava for a week. Authorities have closed the Hawaii Volcano National Park for a day on Friday, but they may decide to close it indefinitely. Hawaii's governor has warned of mass evacuations soon.
And finally, the Paimon people of Venezuela performed a healing ritual in German, the capital of Berlin, before the Quaker Stone. Around a dozen community people dressed in their bright red traditional costumes performed the ceremony. They also played traditional music and marched around the stone. And that brings us to the end of this news brief. With these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for Telesur English and Keishan Haynes. Thank you for watching.
The Pakistani journalist Tariq